Rabbi Say, welcome back to Yerushalmi Orlah. We're holding at the first parak halacha hey, which is roughly Daf Yud Daled. Now, apart from fruit that grow in a tree, there are other things that are fitting to eat, and we're going to talk about their din as far as Orlah is concerned, and other dinim. So ha'alim, that's the leaves, v'lulavim. Now these are sort of parts of the growth which is soft, which you find at the edge of the leaves. Omega fanim, these are things that come out of the vine stump or from the twigs when they're cut, sort of it runs down, this sort of vine juice. Hasamada, and that's the flower from which the grapes come. Mutarid ba'olah, if they grew in a tree during the Orlah year, there's no problem with Orlah. For Ravai, if they grew in the 4th year, there's no din of Ravai on them. Of a nazir, and the leaves of, let's say, the vine, or the vine juice and the smada, there's no issur to a nazir. But if they grow on a tree that's been worshipped for idols, then they are forbidden to get any benefit. Rabbi Yossi says, smada also. He says, no, smada, which is a early stage, it's the flower from which comes the grapes. He says that's forbidden. Shahu that's already considered a fruit. Rabbi Lezer says, hamamid bisraf ha'olah. If you make cheese using the sap of a tree, which is still in the years of Orlah, into the milk, and you make a sort of cheese out of it. So you use the sap of a tree, which is Orlah. Also, you can't eat the cheese, because that sap is considered fruit, and it's issur Orlah, and it forbids the cheese that's been created. I've heard clearly befeirosh, shahamamid v'sraf shel ha'asraf ha'alim, one who creates cheese with the sap of the leaves of v'sraf ha'ikrim, like the stumps of the Orlah trees, mutter, you can eat the cheese. He says, I've heard that this sap is not considered a fruit, it's part of the wood, part of the leaves, there's no issur Orlah on it. But if, however, you make cheese, bisraf ha'pagim, this is a sap that comes from the figs of Orlah, which are not fully ripened, also you mustn't eat the cheese. Neishu, that's considered a fruit. Akan kulais, now these are grapes that have been ruined in the wind. V'hatzanim v'hazogin, and your pips and your skins of grapes. V'hatemed shalahen, and the liquid that's made from the skins and pips rather. Klipe brimain v'hanates, the pomegranate shells, v'hanates, and the part that grows on the pitum of the pomegranate, some sort of crown bit at the top. And klipe agozim, whereas shells of nuts, v'hagarinim, and various pips of all fruit. Asurin ba'orlah, they are forbidden with Orlah of Asherah, or with a tree that's been worshipped. And of Mutarim Baravai, but there's no problem in the 4th. Of a Nazir, it's forbidden with a Nazir. Mutarim Baravai, they're permitted in the 4th year. But Hanovelais, now this is fruit that's fallen from a tree before it's ripened. Kula Asurais, they are forbidden. So what we've got here, so some of these things, the pips and the shells, are Chayav Orlah. Now, the Torah tells about Orlah, it says, Ba'aral temp Orlah sai es perioi. So basically, anything that guards a fruit is included in the issur, or anything close to the fruit. You understand? That's the reason why. Whereas Revi'ah has got different dinim. Revi'ah, the 4th year produce, has got different din. But Orlah, it says there's the Orlah sai es perioi. So anything which guards the fruit. Okay. Right, Ravai is only with Peiros. These things are not considered fruit. As far as Orlah, they're included because of the word S. But as far as Ravai, we don't say the Riboy includes them. They're not forbidden in the 4th year. Okay, Rabbi Yossi says, notice in Yichel Shal Orlah, you can plant a branch of an Orlah tree. It's not a fruit. There's no issur Orlah on it. They note in Ego Shal Orlah. You cannot plant an Orlah nut because that is considered a fruit, and therefore it's Chal Orlah, and therefore it's Asur B'Hana. If I'm yawning, Rabbi Sai, please forgive me. It is during Slichas this week. The Sfadim have Slichas from Rosh Chodesh Elul, so if I'm yawning, that's the reason. We do not graft branches which have, let's say, dates of Orlah that started growing. This is like similar to Sumadar stage. You don't graft it onto an old tree, because these dates are forbidden because of Orlah, and we're worried that you might start planting them to eat the fruit after the grafting. So these fruits are already formed, and you want to graft it, so you say, oh, now I can eat the fruit. Okay? So you can't do that. Ha'alim v'halulavim. So these leaves, when it comes to permitted with Orlah and Ravai and the Nazir, the Nazir can eat these leaves if he wants, these vine leaves. You do get foods where they serve vine leaves, I think. Masnisa, the Mishnah which allows a Nazir these leaves, the local Bles, not the Bles, Zanim Shem Bles, the same name of Bles, all that's made from the vine and the pips and so on you mustn't eat. The word Mikal tells me, so he says even the leaves are included. So it's not like Rabbi says the leaves are forbidden to a Nazir. Now Rabbi Yossi forbids samada. The Gemara brings a brayso. It's only Rabbi Yossi, if samada asa b'nazir, it's forbidden with a nazir neshu pri because it's considered a fruit. V'kashya. Now the brayso is difficult because if asa b'nazir, if a nazir can't eat it, there must be because there's on drosha to include it for Isuri nazir. But if that's the case, lamali pri, why does Rabbi Yossi have to say it's forbidden because it's a fruit? Even if it's not a fruit, we'd forbid it for a nazir because of that drosha. And if the reason why he forbids it is because it's a fruit, priyu, but not because of a special drosha, then yeh asavakal. And it should be forbidden for Orlah. If it's a proper fruit, it should be forbidden for Orlah as well. So Mil said to Yitzchak Gamra, from the words of Yitzchak we learn, Shuhu asavakal. According to Rabbi Yossi, Smada is forbidden with Orlah for everyone, because Rabbi Yitzchak Shali asked, Man Tana, who is the Tana who learnt the end of the Mishnah, Emar Kivin Bekafniyos, that these dates that reach the Samada stage, you can't do grafting, Shal Orlah, of Orlah with another tree. And the Tana who learned this, we said it's Rabbi Yossi. We said the Mishnah earlier on that Samada is also. So you see from Rabbi Yitzchak, that the dinner of Rabbi Yossi, as far as Samada, was said as far as Orlah as well. Yeah, so that tells me that Samada is forbidden for Orlah as well. So it's forbidden to everyone. Over Ravai. Now we said in our Mishnah Samada as far as Ravai, and the Gemara brings a brisa about fruit of Boisa stage of Ravai, where everyone agrees there's a din Ravai. Let's see, Boisa is a later stage in the development. Tani, we've learned in a brisa. Puri, a fruit of Ravai at a poda, proper fruit, you can redeem it, and you'll take the money to Yerushalmi. But not, you cannot redeem, not grapes that are not ripened, below pagim, and not figs that are not ripened. So actually, bois is an earlier stage. So basically, it's not fully ripened yet. You can't redeem a fruit when it's not fully ripened. Although they're kodesh, they've got kedushas ravai, but you can't redeem it. You have to take the fruit themselves and eat it in Yerushalmi. Tomorrow, these types of dates of ravai, where you can't eat them in Yerushalmi nowadays, she cover that you should bury them because you cannot redeem them. You can't eat them because they're not properly developed. You can't redeem it, and you have to bury it. If you did go and redeem it, do you think it's not redeemed? Surely the brisa only said you shouldn't do it lechatchila. Of course, but the it should work. But tema ta'ol kavura, and you're going to tell me it needs burial? Why? I mean, nowadays, it's definitely you can't take it to Yerushalmi. It's all b'diavad. You should be allowed to redeem it. You don't have to bury it. Anyway, I will be sure. Rabbi says, Shomati, I've heard. This is a new section now. We're talking about cheese again. Yeah. So, I've heard that the cheese that was put together with the sap of the leaves of Orlah is permitted because the sap is not considered a fruit. Okay. By the way, they say here, this Boiser and Pagim, you can't redeem it, but they have Kedushas Ravai. You can't redeem it. If you can't redeem it, you have to bury it. Right? Others learn, the Rosh learns, Peres Boiser and Pagim has no Kedushas Ravai at all. It doesn't reach it until it reaches the stage of Maestrus. Okay, let's carry on. Shomati, I've heard that cheese that was put together with the sap of the leaves, of Orlah is permitted because the sap is not considered a fruit. Rabbi Yosef, Shem Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shem, Rabbi Davav said, Taman Tanina, we've learned in Shavuos. Now we're talking about types of balsam and types of fragrances, right, of wood, afasamine, balsam, and lotus. And now they have Kedush Shavuos. Rabbi Shimon, he said, Eila Ketaf Shavuos. No, the Ketaf does not have Oh, why not? Because it's not considered a fruit. Now, this seems to be like Rabbi Yeshua in the Mishnah that the sap is not a fruit. It seems to be the same idea as Rabbi Yeshua. Just like Rabbi Yeshua holds there's no Issa Orlah with the sap, because it's not a fruit, it's part of the wood. So Rav Shimon seems to say there's no Kiddush Shvius, because it's bottled to the eitz, bottled to the tree. There's no Kiddush Shvius. The wood has not got Kiddush Shvius, right? A fruit tree, the wood hasn't got Kiddush Shvius, only the fruit has. Okay? Amar Rav Zira lo Rav Pidas. Now Rav Zira said to Pidas, according to you that Rav Shimon and Rav Yeshua are saying the same thing, well, if that's the case, you're saying with the Machlokes in Mishnah, Halacha B'Yeshua, because related against Rav Yeshua, Halacha is usually like Rav Yeshua, Tamar Nami, then the Halacha would be over there, like Rav Shimon. But the Mishnah Shvius, which brings Rav Shimon, is an individual opinion. The Halacha is not like him. It must be, we cannot equate the view of Rav Shimon to the view of Rav Yeshua. So he explains what's the chiluk between the din of Rav Shimon and Rav Yeshua. Why is it that Halacha is like one and not the other? Do you honestly think they're the same? All the types of sap, all one to the other? Where it says the kataf, where there's an argument in Shvius, batel adei serafai, is secondary to his sap. It's a wood which has no fruit. That tree has no fruit. Right? The whole purpose is because of the sap. And even if Yeshua would agree that it's the main piri and it's forbidden because of Orlah, and it's got Kedusha Shvius, because it's not bottled to the tree, it's something significant in its own right. Do you understand? There's a difference between when something is wood and when something has another purpose. But Yeshua would agree it's the main fruit, it's also because of Orlah, it's got Kedusha Shvius. But whereas Ilan, another type of tree, which makes fruit like the Mishnah, there the main purpose of the tree is for the fruit. That's not secondary to the sap. So over there, Yeshua holds the sap is bottled to the tree and it's considered like moisture of the wood and not the fruit, because there is a fruit here, whereas this sap is not the fruit. It's not also because of Orlah, it's got no Kedusha Shvius. Whereas the view of Rav Shimon is lenient, he holds even the sap has got no Issa Orlah or Kedusha Shvius. That is Mechudesh, a different view, and we cannot equate it to the view of Rabbi Yeshua. And Rabbi Yonah said another reason to make the distinction between the views of Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Shimon. Even you're going to tell me, right, it's the same type of wood, there's still a difference between Orlah and Kedusha Shvius. Because Achle Behema, Kedusha Shvius Chal Alen, animal foods, Kedusha Shvius is Chal on it, even though it's not fruit. But ain't Kedusha Orlah Chal Alen, there's no din of Orlah on it. Orlah is only with a fruit which you're going to eat, right? Since the Kedusha Shvius is Chal, even on things which are not forbidden for Orlah, so therefore even Rabbi Yeshua will agree, even if he holds that the sap is not a fruit as far as Orlah, he'd agree to the Tanna Kama he's got Kedusha Shvius. Whereas the view of Rav Shimon, who's more lenient, he holds even Kedusha Shvius doesn't apply with the sap of the ketaf of this balsam, whatever it is. That's an unusual view, and we cannot equate it to the view of Rabbi Yeshua. Now the Gemara brings another taina against the view of Rabbi Pidas, that we should equate the views. Rabbi Bun, Isla Chayre. There's another reason which tells you that the view of Rav Shimon is not the same as the view of Rabbi Yeshua, because Rabbi Yeshua Amar Shmuah, he said his din like he'd heard it from someone. I heard that if you use the sap to make a good cheese, it's permitted. Rav Shimon, he said it in his own name. Had he heard it from the view of Rabbi Yeshua, he should have mentioned, I've heard. But you see, his view is another view which he came up with himself. Okay? Yeah. So one of the things we mentioned, explain it is, Issa Orlah is on the fruit. Kedusha Shvius doesn't depend on fruit, as long as you get the benefit from it as it's being destroyed. For people or animals, it's got Kedusha Shvius. Right, so going to be sure the sap is not fruit as far as Orlah is concerned, but it's got, even so, Kedusha Shvius doesn't depend on the fruit status, will apply. Rav Shimon holds even Shvius doesn't apply. It's nothing to do with the view of Rabbi Yeshua. Okay, let's carry on. Rabbi Yeshua said in the Mishnah, if you make cheese with the sap which comes from the wood of Orlah, you're allowed to eat the cheese. If you made sap of the figs which are not properly ripened, you cannot eat the cheese because it's a fruit. So what does that mean? What does it mean when he says it's a fruit? Does he mean shasraf? Does he mean that the sap of the figs is itself a pri, is itself a fruit, just like the figs, the pagim are fruit. So the sap also is a fruit, and that's why it's like a fruit of Orlah. Or maybe he means shapagin pri, right? The pagin are a fruit, and the sap is forbidden because it comes out of the fruit. But maybe itself is not a fruit. You understand? Is the sap considered a fruit or not a fruit? Or is it forbidden because it comes from a fruit? In time, you're going to tell me shasraf pri, that the sraf is a fruit in its own right. Then even in Masaken, you made cheese with truma, with the sap of pagim of truma, also it will be forbidden, the cheese. Because the sap is itself truma, and cheese that you made from it is like truma, is also tzarim. But in tema pagin pri, if you're going to tell me that just the in tema pagin pri, if you're going to tell me that this thing is a fruit and the sap is not a fruit, it just comes from the fruit, then in Masechet, if you made a cheese with truma, with the sap of the figs of truma, mutter, the cheese will be permitted to zarim. We won't forbid only a cheese which was used the sap of Orlah. Right? We wouldn't forbid unless it came from Orlah. Lama, why is it that cheese that was made with the sap of truma is permitted if the sap is not a fruit in its own right, whereas if it was done with Orlah it's forbidden? Because hanayas truma mutar is getting benefit from truma is permitted. The Torah only forbade truma to zorim to eat it, but not to get benefit. But hanayas Orlah asura, benefit from fruit of Orlah is forbidden. The Torah forbade Orlah fruit whether with eating or benefit. So therefore, even if this sap is not a pre-shal Orlah in its own right, it's still you mustn't get benefit by making cheese, because through that you are benefiting from the pagim where the sap comes from. As opposed to as far as truma, which is also tazar to eat and not to get benefit, if you're not eating the fruit of truma, you're just getting a benefit or what's coming out of it, then there wouldn't be a problem. And kuklois v'hachatzanim. So these are forbidden with Orlah and Ashera and Anazeh, and they're permitted with Roy. Reb Zira Rechad min Rabbanan, one of the Rabbanan, they said B'Shem Rav. And kuklois, if you open up the word, you get Anavim shelaku, grapes that were smitten, Ajla Shlish, before they grew a third of their growth. Okay? Rav Yisrael, he says no. It's Afilu Laku Shavir Shlish. Even if they reach the stage of destruction after they reach a third growth, they rope a level, and since they got a bit worn away, then the Kedusha Shvius goes away. Okay. Kedusha's Ravai goes away, not Shvius. Kedusha's Ravai goes away. So as long as if they reach the third stage and then they got this disease, whatever it is, Kedusha's Ravai goes away. Now one brings the support to the first view that these grapes, which are parched, like wind parched, before they reach the third. The word akankel is lashon trikunu. You open up the word, you get invin dil ketil tehon. Grapes that the third of them has been hit. The ripening to the third of their growth was prevented, because they were hit. Rabbi Yossi says 19 yichol. You can plant a branch of Orlah, but not a nut of Orlah. And you can't graft branches which have dates on of Orlah. Right? Rav Yochanan. Avav a nata. So if you went and planted a nut of Orlah, because the tree that grows is mutter, is permitted, because the tree that grows is not just from the forbidden nut, but it's also from the ground, which is permitted, and therefore you have two causes, zebazeh gorem, right? You have two causes, and therefore it's permitted. If you went and grafted branches which have these dates on, also it's forbidden, because they were forbidden beforehand because of Orlah, and the grafting cannot allow them. If you have a nut of Orlah which you planted and a tree grew, an egg of Avodah Zarah which broke open and became a chick. Rav Chagai b'shem Rav Yoshia is palgan is machlokes Chizkiya v'Kahana. Kahana Amar Muteres. He says it's permitted because it rots. The nuts rots before the tree starts growing. Chizkiya Amar Asura. Chizkiya said it's forbidden. Now we bring the view of Chizkiah in Avodah Zarah. If you bow down to a whole egg, you have not forbidden it. So according to Chizkiah, it's difficult. How can an egg of Avodah Zarah become a chick? Because what are we talking about here? In a case where you basically broke the egg in front of an idol as a donation to Avodah Zarah, so you don't have the opportunity to create a chick. You've broken open the egg, you're not going to get a chick. And if you didn't break the egg, you just brought it in. You brought it into the inner room there where the idol is as a donation. But that can't be. Because wait a minute, if you bow down to it, to the egg, you've not forbidden it. Because you take it in the inner chamber, it's going to be forbidden. Explain the case. You use the egg to make a fence. There was a hole in the wall around the image, and you put the egg in the hole. You hear that? And since through this action it's part of the wall, it's considered something that's changed by a person, and it's forbidden because it serves Avodah Zarah. Okay, now the Gemara brings an argument about a chick which was born from Beitzas Isur. Beitzas Hegdesh Shenasis Efrayach, an egg of Hegdesh that became a chick. Rabbi Asa, Pligi Bar Kahana Rabbi Yechon have an argument. Kahana Amar Asura. Kahana says it's forbidden because the egg is Asa because of Hegdesh, so whatever comes from it is forbidden. Rabbi Yechon Amar Muteres, Yechon says permitted. Zira, Rabbi Asa. Rabbi Yechon Amar Muteres. Rabbi Yechon said it's permitted. And he doesn't mean the chick is permitted without any redemption money. No. Now, also, he agrees that you have to redeem the chick based on the value that it had, originally, when it was still an egg. You hear that? When it was still an egg, you have to pay that amount. You have to redeem the chick with the money of an egg. That's what you have to do. Okay. Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yaina, Rabbi Lazar, B'Shem Kahana, Paida Eisav Izman Zira'ah. Yeah, the fact that Kahana said the egg that's become an Efrach is forbidden, all he means is you have to redeem it based on the value of the egg. These are Amoraim who explain the view of Kahana, who argues on Rabbi Yochanan. Just 1 second. Yes, Rabbi Yochanan said it's permitted, but it means you have to be paid it based on the value at yeah, this is where we are, yeah? You have to redeem it, we said, based on the value when it was, you have to do it like the time of the value of the egg. They said, yeah, for Kahana, the egg needs to be, it's forbidden, you have to redeem it based on the value of the egg. Now, this nusach that Rav Kahana is saying, there's some mistake here, because Rav Yochanan's view is said to be like that, who argues. So we're basically changing the opinions. Rav Hanani, Rav Pinchas, but Takanta, he would change the word in Kahana Amar Asura. Kahana says it's forbidden to put it with Moshe, and you redeem it. This is a chick born from Hegdesh, right? A Hegdesh egg. And you have to redeem it based on its value of the chick. Now, and Rav Yochanan Amar Muteres to put it with Manzra. The chick is permitted. You don't have to redeem it, only based on the value of an egg of Hegdesh. So you have to base it on the old value of the egg, rather than the value of the chick. Okay? Right. Trumas Maseh. Yeah.
Chapter 2.
Truma, chapter 2. Trumas Maseh Shel D'mai. So you got Truma Gedola, or Trumas Maseh, which has come out from D'mai, or Hachala and Bikurin, which got mixed up with Chulin. You need 100 of a heter against it. But these join up with one another to forbid a mixture. And you have to remove from the mixture based on the issur that's fallen in and give that amount to the Kohen. Now, what about Dine Bittul of Arla and Klai Kerem? Ha'arla of Klai Kerem, they got mixed up with Peter. You need 200 against it. They join up. You don't have to take out anything from the mixture. Now, we have different opinions about joining Arla with Klai Kerem. But Shimon, he says, Arla and Klai Kerem don't join up to forbid a mixture. Rabbi Lezer said, Mistafin, they do join up. but nice in town, with the amount of where they would give taste. Avalai, but they don't join up lesser to forbid a mixture of dry mixture, with a share of 1 in 200. They wouldn't forbid a dry mixture. With a liquid mixture, they would join up if they gave taste. Yeah, who he holds, you don't need 200 against the Orlah and Klal Kerem together. You've got 200 against the Orlah in its own right, and against the Klal Kerem in its own right. Then they're bottled in the mixture. Right, Rav Shimon argues on the Tanna Kama as far as the tziruf of Orlah and Klal Kerem. He agrees to the din brought in the Reisha that Truma and other Isurin join up with one another to forbid a mixture. Okay. Truma or Trumas Maseh, they join up to forbid a mixture. The Gemara explains, who is this needed for? That Truma and Trumas Maseh, Chala and Bikurim join together to forbid a mixture. This is Rav Shimon. This is needed according to Rav Shimon. The Mishnah tells you, Avagav Rav Shimon, even though Rav Shimon said at the end of the Mishnah with the Orlah and Klal Kerem, ancient Shemus Mistavin, two different Isurim don't join up. But he agrees that Truma and Trumas Maseh, Chala and Bikurim, they join up. And the reason is, Shekulan L'Shem Truma, all of them are called in the Torah the name Truma, therefore Mistavin, therefore they join up. Now the Mishnah counts amongst the Truma, which is bottled with 101, Trumas Maseh of Demai, which is only Osman Rabbanon. Man Tana, who is the Tana who's Machmir? He holds that even Trumas Maseh of Demai, you need 100 against it. Who is that Tana? It's Rameh. Rameh Machmir B'Divren. He was Machmir with rabbinical din and Divrei Torah, like the words of the Torah. But where do we find Rameh Machmir B'Divren, where he's strict with Rabbanons, Kishal Torah, like Torah Dinim, Amro Chanina, Ahida Tanina Taman, Nalacha, that we've learned in Mishnah Nida, Haroya Kesem, one who sees a stain on a garment, she doesn't know when it came out. Harezim Keles, her calculations is all ruined. She doesn't know, is she in the 7 days of Nida, or is she in the 11 days of Ziva, right? She doesn't know where she's holding, which is important as far as Karbonos are concerned, right? And as far as Tum and Tahara is concerned. And if she finds a stain, the type of Ziva, Chayshesh is Mishum Zayv. You have to worry maybe that the blood has come in the 3 days, in the day of her Ziva, and she's tummy to Mazava. You don't have to worry about Zayv on stains. So even though Tumas Ksamim is only with Rabbanon, Rav Rameh is strict, and he required you have to worry for all the chashashas that the dam could cause. So you see, Rameh, his view is to be Machmeh with Suri Rabbanon, just like Issa Torah. So the same thing we can say, Mishnah is Machmeh with Bittul Trumas Maseh of Demai, just like Bittul Trumas Maseh of definite Trumas Maseh. And that's the view of Rameh. Rabbi Yodaboy, he asked, well, why didn't we learn that Mishnah between Trumas, which is bottled with 101, what's the din of Chalas Demai? Why not mention Chalas Demai? The answers begin at Taninon, because we've already learned Chala. We mentioned Chala anyway, definite Chala, so we don't need to mention Demai Chala. Chalas Demai. Therefore, we didn't want to mention also the din of Chala of Demai. But we learned in our Mishnah, Truma Trumas Maseh Shel Demai. Now there we mentioned Demai, we mentioned proper Truma, and we mentioned Truma of Demai. Now you said Chala Demai, we didn't want to mention because we had Chala. Well, here we had Truma, and we still mentioned Trumas Maseh of Demai. But Truma Trumas Maseh Shel Demai. It's a very good question. We have no answer. Rav Chananya b'Shem Shmuel Demai Sorry Chala. Right. Okay. I think we will stop here, Rabbi Sai. Okay, we'll do a few more lines. Demai, if you have a dough of demai, so challah, you have to separate challah from it. He said to Chadina, it's mashma that the chiv of demai is like challah's vadai. But it's not true. Challah's demai is naitalu dama min hashevet. You can take money, from the Kohanim, you can sell it to them, challah's demai, to the Kohen. Amar Levi Chadina said, Kainam Shmuel. Shmuel said clearly that there's no chiv chalas demai. It's not the same as chalas vadai, because with demai who knows a damav, the owner of the dough can take money for it min hashevet from the kohanim. Rabbana Shem Rabbi Yossi, he says ain't knows a dam min hashevet. He says no, you cannot get payment for the chalas demai because the chachamim were worried if we allow you to take money, lemacho maybe vadai next day you'll bring to the kohen definite challah, but he'll say demai, always demai. in order to take money from the Kohen. Therefore, there were guys there, the even Chalas Demai should be given to the Kohen for nothing, and the owner of the dough is not allowed to take any payment for it. Okay, I think we'll stop here, Rabbi Isai.